Budapest, often called the Queen of the Danube because of its natural beauty and majestic architecture, is home to many attractions. The most important ones are listed by UNESCO as World Heritage. The first site to be listed was the unique cityscape on the banks of the Danube together with the Buda Castle district in 1987, followed by the Andrashi Avenue and its historical surroundings, added to the list in 2002 as part of the same site. The latter includes the Millennium Underground Railway, the world's second underground line too. Behind its medieval fortifications, Buda Castle can be divided into two parts. One consists of the former royal palace and its surroundings, including the royal garrison, the royal riding hall, the Sándor Palace, which serves as the office of the President of Hungary, and many other significant buildings. The other part is the civic city with its narrow streets and such famous landmarks as the Matthias Church and the Fishermans Bastion. The royal palace has a history of 800 years. Its construction dates back to the 13th century, and it was destroyed many times over the following centuries. Remains of the early structure can be seen in the basement of the building as part of an exhibition. The Baroque palace was built after the liberation from the Turkish occupation, but it was not extended until the turn of the 20th century, according to the plans of Alajos Hausmann. After having been severely damaged in the Second World War, followed by controversial renovation works in the socialist era, the palace is now home to cultural institutions, the National Gallery, the National Library, and the Budapest Museum of History. The neo-Gothic Matthias Church got its commonly known name after the great king Matthias Corvinus, but officially it is called the Church of Assumption. The building itself is more than 700 years old, but it has been rebuilt several times over the centuries. It even served as a mosque during the Ottoman period. When Buda and later Budapest regained its rank as capital, it became the church where the last two coronations of the Kingdom of Hungary took place. The neo-Romanesque Fisherman's Bastion is a beautiful lookout point offering an exquisite view over the past side. It was built in order to provide a majestic architectural frame surrounding the church and also in honor of the Hungarian conquest. Its 7 towers symbolize the 7 Hungarian tribes. In front of the bastion stands the statue of the first king of Hungary, Saint Stephen I, the founder of the Christian state. Turning to the other side of the Danube, the most important building and probably the most famous landmark dominating the cityscape of Budapest is the neo-Gothic Palace of the Parliament. It was designed by Imre Steindl. The construction lasted almost 20 years and the building was finished in 1905. It is 268 meters long and 123 meters wide. Its dome is 96 meters high, just like the dome of the Basilica, making these two buildings the highest ones in the historical center of Budapest. The Parliament is home to the National Assembly of Hungary, but also the most important national treasures, the Holy Crown of Saint Stephen, together with the scepter and the orb, which are all displayed in the main hall of the building. Stephens Basilica is the largest Christian church in Budapest. It was named in honor of the first king, whose mummified right hand is kept there too as a relic. The neoclassical cathedral, designed by Miklós Ibl, is one of the seats of the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Esztergom, Budapest. The dome's height of 96 meters commemorates the year of the Hungarian conquest, which happened in 896. The largest synagogue of Europe stands in Dohány Street. It was built in the mid-19th century in Moorish Revival style to accommodate the fast-growing Jewish community of Budapest. It is surrounded by the Heroes' Hall dedicated to the Jewish soldiers who fell in the Great War and the Holocaust Memorial Park. Andrashi Avenue is the most famous and most prominent street of Budapest. It was built by the initiative of Count Gyula Andrashi, then Prime Minister of Hungary, in order to support and promote Budapest's aesthetic development. The 2,310 meters long avenue is lined with magnificent neo-Renaissance palaces and Art Nouveau villas. One of its most iconic public buildings is the State Opera House, which was built between 1875–1884 according to the plans of Miklós Ibl, one of the most talented and most famous architects in Hungary. The Hero Square lies at the end of Andrashi Avenue. It is the largest square in Budapest and one of the most important tourist attractions. In the center of the square stands the Millennium Monument, which was erected to commemorate the 1000-year anniversary of the conquest of Hungary. A 32 meters high column with Archangel Gabriel on the top, holding the Holy Crown of Hungary in his hand. Below the column are the equestrian statues of the 7 dukes, leaders of the 7 conquering Hungarian tribes. They are surrounded by statues of several allegorical and historical figures, such as some of the greatest rulers of the nation. The largest building in the square is the neoclassical palace of the Museum of Fine Arts, housing an excellent collection of ancient Greek, Roman and Egyptian art, as well as medieval, Renaissance and Baroque paintings and sculptures from Hungary and Europe. The smaller palace on the other side of the square is the Hall of Arts, home to temporary exhibitions, mostly the annual presentation of contemporary Hungarian art, architecture, painting, sculpture and design. The city park is one of the oldest public parks in the world, a popular place for leisure and recreation. Vajdahunyad Castle was originally built for the millennial exhibitions. It is a copy of several famous buildings from the Old Kingdom of Hungary, representing the country's rich cultural heritage and the history of its architecture, the Romanesque, Gothic, Renaissance and Baroque styles. Today, it is home to the Museum of Agriculture. Budapest Zoological and Botanical Garden opened its doors in 1866. It is famous not only for its rich collection of animals and plants, but also for its many historical buildings, such as the Magical Rock and the Indian-style Elephant House. The neo-Baroque Széchenyi Spa is the largest thermal bath in Europe. Its 74-77 degrees Celsius healing water, supplied by 2 artesian springs, is rich in minerals and makes the spa one of the most important medicinal institutions of the city. There are several more spas in Budapest, some of them with an ancient origin, which were later turned into hammams by the Ottomans. Original Turkish structures, pools and domes are still visible in the Rudas and Király baths. Gallard Hotel and Spa is a beautiful example of Hungarian Art Nouveau, an architectural style in which many other important buildings of the capital were designed, such as the Museum of Applied Arts, a masterpiece by the Hungarian architect Ödön Lechner. The Great Market Hall, the largest historical shopping center of the capital. Crowning Budapest cityscape, Gallard here too offers a lot to see. Because of its magnificent cliffs, it is often called the Gibraltar of Budapest. The hill was given its name to honor the first bishop of Hungary, St. Gerard, who, according to the legend, died there as a martyr of Christianity. His statue and cross commemorate his important role. On the top of the hill lies the citadel, a fort built by the Austrians after the fall of the Hungarian War of Independence in 1848-1849 to control the rebellious Hungarian nation. At the edge of the citadel stands the Statue of Liberty, originally erected to commemorate the glorious liberation by the Red Army after the Second World War, but since the changes in 1989, it has been regarded as a neutral monument commemorating all the heroes who died for the freedom of Hungary. Margaret Island is a green oasis enclosed by the Danube. It is a popular place for walking around or spending one's free time. There are many attractions, such as sports facilities, a mini zoo for children, and open-air stage at the water tower, hotels, baths, and also spectacular medieval ruins of a monastery and a church. The 2.5 kilometers long, 500 meters wide island is accessible only on foot, by bike or public bus via the Margaret and the Arpad bridges. Historical and modern bridges arch over the Danube, the Blue River of Budapest that divides and connects the city at the same time. Not only do bridges play an important role in the city's transport system, but they are just as important as landmarks. The Széchenyi Chain Bridge, together with its iconic tunnel and lion statues, is definitely one of the most famous symbols of Budapest. It was opened in 1849, but had to be completely rebuilt twice in the past 1.5 centuries. It was the first permanent bridge over the river, followed by Margaret Bridge, the former Franz Joseph Bridge that is Liberty today, and the original Elizabeth Bridge. Elizabeth is the only historical bridge in the capital which was completely destroyed in the Second World War. The current structure was only finished in 1964.